Unfortunately, there are athletes who I've talked to who don't know what the term doping is. हमें बता दिया जाता है कि ये खाना है और हम ये खा लेते हैं, क्योंकि हमें ये बोला जाता है कि ये चीज हमारे स्पोर्टिंग करियर के लिए बहुत अच्छा है. And that's the problem. So many athletes who, you know, age 30, age 35, age 25, they die because of, because they've been taking so many drugs since the age of 16, 15, 14, and nobody ever talked to them.
Hello and welcome to another episode on Sportingly Yours by me, Sonali Gupta, with people in sports. Today with us, we have an interesting topic and guest talking about sports law. We welcome our guest today, Mr. Tarun.
Thank you, Sonali. Thank you.
Tarun is an assistant professor, research and member, GNLU, Center for Sports and Entertainment Law. He has more than 6 years of teaching and research experience in the area of sports law. Tarun has taken more than 30 guest lectures, webinars at prestigious universities and institutions like the School of Law, Kathmandu University, University of Kashmir, GNLU, Symbiosis Law School, Hyderabad Institute of Law, Nirma University, to just name a few. He has been closely associated with the government of Gujarat and has completed 2 research projects funded by them. Recently, Tarun was invited by the Department of Physical Education, University of Mumbai, to design a course on sports and gaming law. He has a number of papers in the area of sports law, and recently he co-authored a book titled Ensuring Integrity, Lessons from Judiciary, published by Thomson Reuters. So Tarun, you pursued LLB from one of the most prestigious universities of India, now doing LLM in sports law in the UK. Why did you choose sports law in specific, which is hardly heard of as a mainstream law career? And what was your thinking or your approach behind this?
First of all, Sonali, thank you for the invitation. And you read out my a brief bio of mine, and I want to use this platform and congratulate you and thank you for being one of the most important stakeholders in the area of sports. And I think both of us will have a very similar story. If you're going to ask me why did I choose sports law as a career, and it's simply because of the reason that I love sports. Though both of them are very different, I think a lot of people confuse sports and sports law, that if you love sports, you're going to like sports law. But and that's not necessary, because both of them are absolutely different. But in my case, it actually turned out to be really good. So I come from Dehradun, which is known for its sporting culture. I stayed in this campus, which is called the Forest Research Institute, very famous. And my parents always pushed me and my elder sister to play sport. And from there, I think the germ of sports and the love for sport came into being. And in my initial degree, which is the BLLB degree, I did not really get into sports law. But when I came to GNLU, where I'm currently working as well, I think things changed, because I saw a huge potential. I saw a huge opportunity in terms of course, earning and so on and so forth. But most importantly, giving back to the society, giving back to a particular concept which actually gave me so much in my life. So I identify myself as an athlete or as a sports person and a sports lover before anything else. And I think that was the most important reason as to why I took sports law. And I want to thank all the powers around, for helping me, for all the people around who've been with me in this journey. So yeah.
Right. So I'm going to ask you this because it can't come from anyone better. How would you describe sports law to perhaps a non-legal audience?
Yeah, I think for anybody who doesn't understand law as a concept, I think sports law is nothing but how law. For example, I'll explain it through an illustration. So, for example, if two parties, if Sonali and you and I have to do something, we'll sign a contract, and in that contract there will be terms and conditions given, right? And let's put this contract in a sporting environment where there are two parties. One party can be an athlete, the other party can be a team. Let's take IPL, cricket, which is watched all over the country. So Mahendra Singh Dhoni signs a contract with with Chennai Super Kings, and in that contract, his playing time, his responsibility, his role, his remuneration is written, and anything, and according to that contract, both the parties have to function. So just to explain it extremely simply, sports law is nothing but an amalgamation or a collection of all the laws that govern us and how these laws work in a sporting ecosystem, whether it's contract law, whether it's human rights. There have been a number of issues when it comes to human rights in sports, whether it's gender discrimination. We listen to gender discrimination issues happening all over the world, not only in India. Doping, I think, which is very, very important since the new bill has come in. And that's what sports law is. It's nothing but how sports is governed by various laws in this country.
Right. And I think very early in the conversation that you've already touched this subject of doping. And I think let's just kind of continue on that. Right. How widespread is this already? And how has, say, maybe sports laws or how have we been able to put a check on it? How have players been affected by probably the laws or just by these, just by some rules and regulations? How easy or then how difficult has it been for everybody within this doping aspect?
Right. Extremely, important to discuss it. There are two aspects of sports, Sonali, which I believe have been a major problem in the entire sports ecosystem. One of them definitely is doping. The other one is match fixing and sport fixing. And I think the problem does not start from the elite or professional level, but it actually starts from the grassroots level. Now, unfortunately, what has happened is that our athletes generally, I'm not generalizing though, but a majority of them come from a very humble background.
Right.
They come from a background where education is not that sophisticated. They come from a background where exposure is not that sophisticated. And right. That's why there is an over dependence on your peers. There's an over dependence on your coaches. There is an over dependence on your administration, right? And another very important issue is vernacularity, right? So, for example, let's just take an example. Anybody, I come from Uttarakhand. Any right. athlete coming from the most interior areas of Uttarakhand will not be comfortable with English language, and in some cases, not even with Hindi. You need to create systems. You need to create a situation wherein you educate these grassroots level athletes, because at the professional level, there are still structures. But at the grassroots level, you have nothing. And when I say nothing, I genuinely mean it, because I've seen it. I've talked to athletes. Unfortunately, there are athletes who I've talked to who don't know what the term doping is. They always say, and I want to speak in Hindi because that's the language, that they spoke to me कि हमें बता दिया जाता है कि ये खाना है और हम ये खा लेते हैं, क्योंकि हमें ये बोला जाता है कि ये चीज हमारे sporting career के लिए बहुत अच्छा है. And that's the problem. Because the education or the capacity building hasn't happened at the grassroots level, the problem is so huge that by the time in the pyramid, when it comes to the professional level, the athlete is already gone. His or her major time has gone into not working naturally on himself or herself, but depending upon these prohibited substances, these prohibited methods. And it's not only bad for sports as a concept, but it's also bad for their own health. There are so many athletes who, age 30, age 35, age 25, they die because they've been taking so many drugs since the age of 16, 15, 14, and nobody ever talked to them. With this new bill coming in, I hope the situation comes in. First of all, I want to really congratulate the government of India for doing it. It was extremely, extremely important, though there are few things I think which can be deliberated upon in terms of the structures that they've created through the new bill. But I think I would want to, through this platform, I want to urge anybody who's into sports law teaching, sports policy teaching, to please create capacity building among athletes. Take your programs out of law schools and take them to the real stakeholders, which are athletes. So that's going to be my urge to everyone.
Absolutely. And I think very well put, Tarun, because, like you very rightly mentioned, that they come from such humble backgrounds that somehow for them, the urgency perhaps to even win and be able to become one of those earning members, or perhaps somebody who's able to benefit from the sport as a career and make it professional, even if we're looking at it as a very, very career oriented path, is very important, apart from the fact that they put in all their life and all their passion into the sport. But if you take that out and just look at it as a profession, then the need to earn money is so important that they're just willing to do what it takes. Unfortunately, the doing what it takes is just something that's not legally right, and then perhaps not even medically right for themselves.
Absolutely. I think more than, of course, it hits the whole ecosystem of sports because it brings a lot of shame, embarrassment, whenever there is an athlete who's charged from India. It's obviously bad for India as a country. But to an equal extent, it's actually, I would say, diabolical for the athlete, because the kind of things he or she is going to go through after having those drugs, and it happens in later years, where we have seen heart attack happening to players, paralysis happening to players, and the sight is so awful. I just hope we do something about it as quickly as possible, and it's high time now.
Right. And then another issue that you really touched upon, again, if we can talk more about it, is that of inclusivity. And how important, and can there be some kind of a law, rather, if at all, that just kind of makes it so mandatory for people to have an inclusive team, to have an inclusive environment? Because like, even if we read our basic structures or the way associations even talk, it's always male female, it's always it's so gender specific, and it's always a male female, male athletes, female athletes, gents, ladies, bathrooms. I mean, there is no space for a third. There is no space for anything in between. How important is this as a subject in sporting ecosystem? Because we are already looking at such a minuscule number of people who are actively participating in sport. And within that, we have already segregated an entire chunk of them who could have been medal winners for us.
Right. Absolutely. And before going into the legal structures and policy structures, I think we have to look within as human beings. Now, unfortunately, what happens, Sonali, is that we have these LGBTQ pride parades, which is so important, and I congratulate everybody who does that. But it's not only about pride parades. It's not only about two people like you and me who have that kind of, I would say, freedom to talk about it, because we come from that understanding, hopefully. But it's about looking within and understanding and realizing that there is another, I would say, segment of people who have been neglected in history since humanity has begun. They were already there, right? It's very natural to be that. And it's extremely, extremely important now to give them the respect they deserve, give them the space they deserve. And now they've started coming into sports, which is brilliant. Now the structures as sports, what we can do is, which already happens, by the way. Let's talk about mixed gender leagues, right? You've got tennis, where you have mixed doubles. You've got badminton, where you have mixed doubles. Very recently, I would congratulate India for it, actually. The Northeast Futsal League happened. I think this was 2019, if I'm not wrong, which was a mixed gender league.
Absolutely.
When you have already done the same for males and females, why not include the third gender in it? We have, nobody knows how they play because they don't come, they haven't come forward. I want to actually congratulate Kerala government for it. And very recently, I was writing a paper for one of the conferences where I got to know that Kerala just recently organized the first third gender tournament, where only people coming from the third gender were given opportunity to express themselves. And there were 6 games, I think, which they had put forward, which was athletics, if I remember correctly. I think it was only athletics. Track and field was there. And these are the kind of systems that we want. In Nagaland, there is one person who's a transgender, who has made the first transgender team in Nagaland. Now, you've got examples, you've got people who have started doing these things, but these things have to be brought into mainstream. And you've got laws against, which are anti-discriminatory laws. Let's talk about FIFA, which talks about no discrimination, cricket as well, and other sports as well.
Right.
But it's high time that as society, we acknowledge, accept, and most importantly, respect that there is another category of people who are there, who are equal to all of us, and give them the opportunity to express themselves. This reminds me of what used to happen I want to go back to a little bit of history. And I was watching this movie called 42, which is a movie on Jackie Robinson, the first black, if I use the word, and excuse me for using it, the first black Major League Baseball player. And he was picked up by one of the team, and the coaches of that team, because there was a lot of, rift against it, that why we are allowing black people in a white sport. And the coach makes a very valid point. He makes the point that he's going to play, and he tells all his white players that there are more coming. So you better, tie your laces. You better start working on yourself, because they are coming. You won't be able to stop them. And one day, if you don't uplift yourself or you don't become a better player, they're going to substitute you. So players are going to come from every community, from every gender. It's high time that we start including them, giving them the
Absolutely.
respect, and we start upgrading ourselves as humans and allow that space for them, a safe place, space for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And with the recent treatment of Indian athletes, say, coming again into this whole subject by the international sports agencies.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the Duty Chand, the hyperandrogenism. What's the legality of these kind of issues vis-a-vis where we stand, and especially for Indian players? What's our representation then?
Unfortunately, if we talk about international, regulators, there have been a lot of issues. Sonali, one of them which you spoke about was the hyperandrogenism case, and it's not only Duti Chand who unfortunately had to, because she came out of it and she got the kind of order that she was looking for. But you had Caster Semenya, who coming from South Africa. She, unfortunately, I just was reading an article somewhere. She had to leave athletics and she had to get into football because of the whole hyperandrogenism issue, an issue which is not settled, by the way, till now, as to what happens with testosterone. Does it give you that kind of advantage, and so on and so forth? But just to be on the safer side, I think the World Athletics or other international organizations have banned transgenders or people with highest testosterone level to participate in women's category. Now that's extremely grey. There are, I would say, most of the, if I'm correct, yeah, most of the international bodies have banned them from women's category, and it's based on something where there is a probability that it gives you an advantage, but it's not a settled law. And that is where the discrimination is. When you are not sure about something, why are you discriminating them? You give them an opportunity, else you make a category for them. The category making would help in one way, that as soon as you make a category for them, people, whether they come from third gender, whether they have higher testosterone level, if you make a category for them, there would be a lot of support coming from, from grassroots level, where people would want to express themselves, who come from the same or who face the same tune. You make that kind of category and you let them express. Or if the science is still working on it, let science finish its results. Let's see what the results are, and then we go ahead with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you think, or rather, do you believe that the Indian sports law is actually right now an absolutely untapped gold mine with a lot of potential? And would I be wrong in saying, with the X number of leagues that are coming in, with the kind of player contracts that are getting signed, for the number of athletes that are actually now winning medals, getting brand endorsements, there is just so much that's happening in Indian sports.
Right, absolutely. And you look at the kind of, very recently, I think Viacom 18 got the IPL rights, and you look at the money involved there.
Yes.
And you look at the Indian performances happening in Olympics, and you're absolutely correct, Sonali, when you said that it's an untapped market. It most definitely is, and the pace of it growing, sports may be growing, at a very quick pace. But when you talk about sports law market, I'm still a little bit disappointed because I thought that when I started, in 2015, I started in 2016. I thought in the next 5 years it's going to be a huge boom. There is a boom. I would not, because I see it every day, but the pace of it hasn't been of that standard. I don't know what's the reason for it though, because if you look at international, if you look at the West, every day there is something new coming in. I don't want to go to the West. Let's go to Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka as a country has been doing so much in the area of sports. I think Arjuna Ranatunga, who was their former captain of cricket, was the sports minister for them, if I'm not wrong. And they've already started working. They have actually started working on a sports law for Sri Lanka. So I think it's high time for India, wherein you get some, and we have policies. It's not like we haven't made policies. The government has done a decent job in creating policies. But the most important aspect of this is that these policies, these capacity building, these aspects of sports law or sports policy has to reach to the athlete, has to reach to the ecosystem. And again, it's a great opportunity to discuss it. I urge everybody who are, all the students who are there in law school, who have love for sports, who follow sports, to really get into the management, to really get into the legal aspects of sports law, because there is so many opportunities there. Of course, if I talk about money in India when it comes to sports law, there can be a debate about it, but internationally you have got great money also, because that's one of the most important aspects one person would look into while taking up anything. But there is so much of opportunity in India, and there is so much of requirement more than opportunity. So, I do whatever I can, you do whatever you can. But I think it's the new crop, the new generation which is coming in. They really have to take it forward, because India
Right.
has become a global player when it comes to sports ecosystem. And if you want to sustain there, if you want to be there as a global player, you need structures, you need policies, you need those kind of mindsets which help you take it forward.
Right. And coming to that, the Supreme Court has sought the opinion of the center and the state governments on the suggestion that physical literacy or sports be
Right.
recognized as a fundamental right.
Right.
In fact, sport is a human right. And
Right.
all education boards be asked to ensure that there are at least 90 minutes of every school day to be dedicated to free play and games. So
Absolutely.
now, how significant would this decision be for the future of Indian education, perhaps
Right.
Indian future generation, and to that of sports?
Right. First of all, when I was reading the about this, it's so unfortunate, Sonali, and both of us can understand because we play sport, that the Supreme Court had to intervene to tell people to play, like, which
Right.
is the most basic thing that we do, right? And there is play in everything. From if you when we were kids, from playing those sports, things like chore police and hide and seek, to
Absolutely.
playing professional sports now. Like, we need to have people now. We need courts to tell us that please let students and let kids play. That is an unfortunate scenario. But I'm so glad that the courts took a very progressive opinion on this, a very progressive stand on this, not opinion, but took a very progressive stand on it. And I think it wasn't required, but I'm sure, because the court had to intervene, there was some kind of requirement, and it's a great step. And it should not only be restricted, I think, to schools, but it should be restricted to colleges, universities, and most importantly, workplaces. Like, the way we have started working, whether it's corporates, academics, and so on and so forth. I think there should be a rule which should where we as professionals should be asked to to go to the ground. And I'll tell you, I play football every now and then at my university, and that's the highlight of my day. That nothing gives me more pleasure than those 2 hours from 6 to 8 playing with the students, because that's the best feeling. All my stress, anything that I'm going through comes out there, and it rejuvenates you, it defines you. And so I
Right.
think thanks to the court for intervening and telling us that you have to play. I think our parents used to tell us when we were kids not to play too much, but I think now the position is that the courts have to intervene to tell us that, go, please play.
Do you
It's
think,
important.
Tarun, that a major part of this really has to do with gaming? And I'm coming to gaming
Yeah.
because just recently you were invited by the Department of Physical Education, the University of Mumbai, to design a course in sports and gaming
Right.
law. Now, the area of sports and gaming law in India is relatively new and it's barely explored. It could be challenging when we talk about one hand where the Supreme Court is having to intervene and asking us, please go out there and play, and making it mandatory for kids and for the schools to kind of just push it on them. And when we have this whole generation of kids who are so happy to be on their couch playing probably 90 minutes of games on, and and that's how it is.
Right.
Where do you think you would be able to sort of find the balance or talk more about specifically this active play and gaming?
Again, Sonali, I think it's a very personal call. For example, you just spoke about where you see new generation, and which is there, which is always on the couch playing video games. I think I'm not against it, but an over dependence on it is a problem. Is actually the problem. Now, in COVID, actually, people who used to be into online gaming and gaming in general, virtual gaming in general, they actually saw an opportunity because there was no physical support happening. But it's extremely important to strike that balance. That balance is something which is very personal. Like if I have, in the future when I will have kids, you play video games, there is no problem. One should play it. It's a source of entertainment. It has actually now become a huge market. It's a multi-million or multi-billion market now, where you've got tournaments happening. FIFA does a FIFA World Cup tournament every year, and you've got a number of the Formula One does it, and so on and so forth. So I'm absolutely up for it, but striking that balance is important. You need to push kids. You need to push, and I'm want to only focus on kids. The kid will learn from what he sees or she sees every day at home. When I, as an individual, if I'm a father in the future, if my kids see me on the laptop all the time, maybe playing, maybe working, they would try to replicate that in their life. And with what authority, then I can just push them and ask them to go to the ground? I don't know. I have to set an example. Whenever, and let's just take your example. Whenever I see you on social media playing badminton, it's such a great example for everybody. That age is just, it's not about age. It's not about where you are. It's not about what you're doing in life. When you want to play sport, you will play it. You'll find time to do it. I do it every day. So the balance has to be there.
And that balance is again very personal. More than balance, if I could use the word here, a change of our culture is so important.
Absolutely.
Because we really need to make sports a part of our daily activity, which we don't. We somehow just don't put the importance in our own lives. And so rightly, when you said that, as parents, if we cannot give them this as an active example and only ask them to do something that we are not doing, that's just another generation of, followers, perhaps, or doers, or whoever they are, who are going to oppose everything that we say simply because they do not see any value in something that we are only preaching them to. So, this, I think, again, as many sports ecosystems, the education departments, people who are into physical sports, as much as we are trying to sort of talk about it and make it an important subject, we are primarily movement-based people. And, as human beings, we cannot not be moving. And it's not always about playing a sport because we talk it in this context of sports, but the importance of having some daily activity. And again, thankfully, post the pandemic, a lot of them have taken up walking or yoga or something that has been a health shift in our society. But maybe we can just add a little more sporting shift to it to sort of, to boost it. Also,
you talked about pandemic. I'm so sorry. Please continue.
No, please.
Yeah. So you were just talking about pandemic here. Whenever we see people around us, and we ask them actually to come and play, there will be some kind of hesitation that what people are going to think. How will I look while playing? And when the pandemic was going on, everybody so proudly was putting their yoga doing, with pictures, playing with their grandchildren, playing with their kids, and doing very funny stuff, with that hoopla and so on and so forth. So there is a kid inside us. There is somebody who loves sport inside us. It's just about giving that platform to people, and it has to come from within. You have to come out of that. Again, one of the issues why a lot of people don't play, because of this fun factor, where people will be there to taunt you, to make fun of you, but and it looks funny to an extent, but after that it actually hits you, because every day when you're going out and somebody's commenting on how you look while playing, or how you shouldn't be playing because of the age, or because of gender, or because of your position in the society, I think that ice breaking needs to be done very, very quick.
It does, and I think it's never easy, Tarun. And just going by my own example, it's just never easy. I think you face something every single day, and I think it's just your passion for play that keeps you going. So.
And everybody talks about you should all they're just saying that you should always keep that kid in you. You should never let that kid go. And whenever you want to be that kid and play, there is so much of, I don't know, unhealthy environment around it. I don't know why. And I think that's one of the reasons why.
Because sport is so competitive in its own nature by itself. The sport just becomes competitive. And then maybe that's where we kind of lose our plot, because then the thin line between having fun with what we are wanting to do and then competing to a level of making it stressful is it's just kind of something that we again have to do this very, very individually.
And I think there's this whole concept of what I'll tell you where one of a big problem is, Sonali. A big problem is that we still consider sport only as a leisure activity. It actually is not a leisure activity. It actually defines human evolution. It defines culture. It defines society. And as soon as we are going to change that attitude, everything about it is going to change. We haven't till now, unfortunately, after so many years of independence, and not even independence, so many years of humans coming to earth, and human evolution, we haven't given sports. I'll speak from an Indian perspective right now. We haven't actually given sports or physical literacy the kind of respect it deserves. I think that is where the cultural shift has to be done.
Absolutely. And, Tarun, coming to your book, and I've been wanting to ask this, and I wish I could have asked this as the very first question, but I had to really wait to almost the fag end of it. So you published your first book, Ensuring Integrity, Lessons from the Judiciary in the Presence of the Honorable Gujarat Chief Minister and the Law Minister. Right. How significant was that to you personally and professionally? And would you just share a few glimpses of the book?
More than significant, I'll tell you, it is super surprising for me, Sonali. So my sister was laughing about it when I told her that the book is coming out. So from in entire school life and till my where I did my undergraduation, I had just read one book, and I'm not even kidding. That was a book written by Ruskin Bond called Room on the Roof, and I had to read it because it was a school assignment. And as far as I remember correctly, I did not even do that school assignment. My sister did it for me. And from there, the book coming in, I want to thank Gujarat National Law University. I want to thank the Gujarat Vigilance Commission, the Chief Minister of Gujarat, and more specifically my co-authors. I'm the co-author, my main authors, which is the Vigilance Commissioner of Gujarat, our director here, and one of my very close friends who is a part of it. Professionally, I will get to know how much is going to impact everyone, because it's not a sports law book. It's a book on anti-corruption and how anti-corruption has evolved through a number of judicial cases that have happened around the country. And we've started from 1955, and the latest one is in 2021. But personally, I still can't believe it has happened. To be very honest, I never thought that I'll put that word author behind my name, because I now I've started reading. Now I've read a significant amount of books in my life, but at one point of time, I think one of the biggest enemies that I had was novels and books and course books. So it's extremely, extremely surprising for me, but I'm very glad it happened. I think I've made a few people a little proud, and more than that, I've surprised myself and I've made myself proud.
Nice. So to end this on a fun note, I'm going to ask you a few rapid fire questions.
Shoot.
And I didn't have you prepare for that, so which is why this is going to be fun.
That wasn't on the list.
Okay. Right. Suits or Boston legal?
Suits.
Sports law or IPR?
It's a no-brainer. Sports law. No offense to IPR.
Academics or sports?
Oh, that's a tough one. Yeah. Sports part.
Teaching or practice in law?
Or teaching. It's the best thing that I tell everybody to do it. It gives you so much time for yourself. And the best part about it is that you're involved with students, you learn so much from them.
Thank you. Thank you, Tarun. And I'm not going to trouble you with more rapid fires, but thank you
Thank
so
God,
much.
thank God.
Thank you so much for this absolutely insightful chat. And I think, the subject of sports law is also so unspoken of. And there is so many little nitty-gritties that we can kind of even talk specifically about with, again, coming with the way Indian sports is growing. So thank you so much for taking your time and sharing all of your insights today.
No, thank you very much. And I really, really thank you for what you're doing for the sports community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tarun, for your support. And thank you, everyone, for watching. Do come by and like, subscribe to the channel, and stay connected until the next episode. Help us connect sports and its people. Thank you so much.